Welcome.
Hello and welcome to OzLoL Podcast, episode 92. We're back after we missed a week last week because of reasons and things. So if you are watching live on Twitch, we would like to thank you for joining us. And if you're listening to the podcast, we'd also like to thank you for listening. My name's Caraclossus. This week I am joined by Steve and by Victor.
Hello. I don't get my clerical error name? Come on. That's my identity, man.
It really isn't. It's been Steve for like a billion episodes.
Oh my god. You get me, Steve.
And I never refer to myself as Lee. I don't know why that is. By the way, if you don't know my name, it's Lee.
Because it's a double standard.
Yeah, it is a double standard. I don't know why.
By the way, guys, if you don't know my name, it's Victor.
Yeah, it's Victor.
Sure.
He is an imposter.
My real name is Carrot, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I've started cloning myself.
I got one of my best friends on another podcast I do, and they're all supposed to call me Victor, but he still sometimes calls me by my real name,
which is Jack.
So, hey, you don't know that.
I do know that. You know why? Because for like the first 2 episodes of this year, I called you by that, and then you're like, "Just call me Victor." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, okay." All right. It is kind of easier. We are sponsored by the Trinity Force Network. You can go to our website. It's ozol.trinityforcepodcast.com, I think. Yes, not Trinity Force Network yet. And you get a lot of old episodes. You can also, if you go to trinityforcepodcast.com, you can check out the T-Force podcast, the T-Force LCS Rundown, and the Four Wards podcast, which are our sister shows, who actually do put up shows every week, unlike us. Because we're slackers. No, we're not really. We actually would like some emails. We haven't actually heard from any of our fans recently, and we kind of would like to because we like you guys and you listen to us. So you should email our show which is ozlolpodcast@gmail.com, or you could get us a hold of Facebook or Twitter, which is facebook.com/ozlolpodcast or twitter.com/ozlolpodcast. So hit us up and let us know. And maybe... We're supposed to be giving away RP. We actually should have talked about this before the start of the show. Have I ever competition? Whoever comes up with the best idea for an RP competition will get RP. and then we'll run an RP competition.
And then we'll not do that RP competition.
Yeah, no.
Well, we'll save it for next time we get RP.
So if you have a good idea... actually, no, what we'll say, what would be the most Aussie way to give away RP? We'll do it that. That's the RP competition. Somebody should put that in the documents so we don't forget next week. The most Aussie way,
and they've not been brought up. That's fine.
Yeah. Can I enter this competition, but do a video of me just eating a jar of Vegemite?
If you had the RP inside the Vegemite, I'd pay that. I'd personally give you $10 of RP.
There's Rito points in here. I'm gonna go grab a jar of Vegemite right now.
No joke. No, I'm just kidding. There is this dude I've seen, this
Victor's
American guy who does these eating competitions, and he literally had like 2 decent, was sort of the middle-sized Vegemite jars. Like he just ate them in like 2 minutes. He just like powered them down, and I'm like, that is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it's Vegemite in moderation, my friends.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so for the benefit of those who don't know like what Vegemite is, it's like this black paste. It's yeast. It's like a yeast extract, and people have it on toast and stuff. And when you put it on, like you get your toast, you put your butter on, and then you just thinly spread this stuff. And every American who tries that Vegemite, they just like layer that on like it's like peanut paste or something. It's not how you do it.
I can't believe it's taken to episode 92 of the OzLoL podcast for us to finally explain what Vegemite is.
Yeah. Victor, you want to show that up on your camera so our international viewers can see and understand how gross that stuff is?
And I'll provide live commentary. The Vegemite jar.
No, it's the same color as his jacket. His jumper.
No, I grabbed too big of a spoon, so that's all I could get on it. But I actually really like this stuff.
Turn the jar into the camera. Turn it so you can see into the jar. See, it's black. It's black. It's disgusting. Anyway, so if you have an idea for the most Aussie way, people should. I'm grossed out just watching you do that.
I'm just like, we want our fans to email us and hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. So Vegemite.
Yeah, so Vegemite. Something gross.
I fucking love this stuff.
It's because you're a reprobate. That's why. All right, so get in touch with us that way, any of those ways, and let us know the most Aussie way to get RP. And you might get $10 at RP, and considering that only a handful of people ever contact us, you've got a really good chance of winning, so you should let us know. All right, let's talk about some of the OPL. So we've it's basically the end of the season.
Tomorrow. Let's talk about tomorrow before we talk about anything.
Is that tomorrow's the final day, isn't it?
Tomorrow is the final OPL day.
Yeah.
That'll be Thursday the 9th. So if you're watching live, get excited for tomorrow. If you're listening to the recording, then my bad.
Too late.
But these implications for tomorrow have already happened. But there's like 3 different scenarios for how it's gonna work out. Like, Chiefs are locked in. I'm trying to remember which teams are locked in. Give me a second.
Chiefs are locked in. They're 13
I know Chiefs are locked in, but there's 2 other teams that are locked in. Obviously the bottom team are locked in. They're not going to be able to.
And immunity is locked in.
Yeah, so the 1st place and 8th place are locked in, but someone else is already locked in as well. Legacy are locked in.
Yep.
Everybody else is kind of up in the air. So we've got if Sin beat Direwolf and Avantgarde, and Avantgarde beats Sudden Fear, it's a mouthful, then there's a tiebreaker for 3rd and 4th place between AV and Direwolves. If Sin beat Direwolves and Absolute beat Chiefs, that's unlikely, but is theoretically possible. Or Direwolves beat Sin and Chiefs beat Absolute and Legacy beat Immunity, Sin and Absolute play for a tiebreaker for 5th and 6th. If Direwolves... This is a mouthful. You're not going to be able to remember this. You better be taking notes. But if Direwolves... This is the most interesting one to me. If Direwolves beat Sin, Chiefs beat Absolute, and Immunity beats Legacy. Now, all of those 3 are possible and relatively likely by... Well, maybe
at least the first 2.
Versus Legacy. But there's always a chance, I believe. Then Sin, Absolute, and Immunity will play a tiebreaker series for 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Wow.
Now, the reason that 3rd one is so important to me, well, apart from the fact that I'm Immunity's division manager now, is the 5th place team does not get relegated, but 6th and 7th do. So Sin, Absolute, and Immunity, assuming that Direwolves beat Sin, Chiefs beat Absolute, and Immunity beat Legacy, that's going to be huge. And I'm just... I'm stressed. Can I say I'm stressed? I've been stressed for a very long time.
If you'd been in contact, if you had Steve if you were in our Skype group for OzLoL podcast, you would know that Steve is stressed to the max.
Somewhat.
He calls us outside hours just so he can cry to us and tell us all his life
You're the
problems.
only one who listens, Victor. And Carrot, your voice is just nice.
Oh, thanks. My soothing
baritone.
voice.
Oh, goodness. No, it's been very rough for Immunity.
Yes, that would be an understatement.
myself.
It has been very rough for Immunity. But, I mean, we might as well start talking about some of the last couple of weeks of games. I mean, even though Immunity have had a rough time, there's still, and we say this every week, there's still a lot of potential there. And for a while there, they were looking as hot as you can be. Like, they were looking top 3 material.
And I've got to say, a lot of that comes down to Soul Strikes and T-Gun.
Yep.
Being just like this amazing communications combo. Like, you guys out there don't get to hear a lot of the background. Like, we've started to hear, like, snippets of voice from the comms and such. But those 2 are so good during the draft phase. They're so good during the actual games at communicating, coordinating ganks, and all that sort of stuff. So when Soul Strikes went to Korea, we had to kind of introduce a new jungler, and the jungler wasn't bad, but he didn't have that element that Soul Strikes had that had us ranting about how good, well, had Carrot ranting about how good Immunity were, not even just a few weeks back. So, and when he was forced to leave, then we had Miss Fish, fan of the podcast.
Yeah.
We had to have Miss Fish sub for us, and Miss Fish is not a jungler as his main role, but that's just where we've,
And to be fair, though, he managed to steal 3 dragons in the last game. Oh, Gragas.
No, one of those was stolen by Moya, who was subbing for our mid laner Cheese. Yeah.
Okay, I thought he got all 3. Anyway, okay.
How did you get a hold of anyone from Fortnite?
Interesting. As long as the player is listed as a sub, they can play in the OPL if they're in an OCS team.
Right.
There you
But
go.
they're like this ghost team that like no one could ever get into contact with. I don't know how you got him in the first place.
Steve has his face. He sells his body on the street of Darwin.
No, I have a scrying orb. It's just
Yeah.
over there. On the top of my Cartha staff. I use that to contact players.
Yeah. So, for the benefit of those who watch the results of recent days, or recent weeks, let me quickly bring it up. So, in the last week, we had... Let me just find it. Alright. So, last week we had Direwolves beat Sudden Fear, Avant beat Sin, Absolute beat Immunity, Chiefs beat Legacy.
Don't look at me when you say that.
Direwolves beat Absolute, Chiefs beat Sin, Legacy beat Sudden Fear, and Avant beat Team Immunity. Now, it's probably worth pointing out that most of those games are actually really quite close, and something which is in the last week of play that I've really appreciated is how good some of these the smaller teams are. So, Absolute, Sin, and Sudden Fear have all played pretty darn well. I mean, last split we had a situation where I'm trying to think of who was the it was Fortnite. Like Fortnite really got hammered. Oh no, it was Sudden Fear. Sorry, no, which one was it?
Sudden
I'm
Fear.
trying to remember what you're actually talking about.
One did better than the other, but nevertheless they got really pummeled the whole split through.
Fortnite.
Yeah, it was Fortnite.
And then they won against the Chiefs and
Yes, which was disappointing. But I think Sin.
I
and
told
Absolute,
you how they did that. They accidentally drafted expertly well.
Yeah.
Every other game was just like a terrible combination of champions. It was like the few games that they got a half decent draft. The games went relatively even until it was a complete.
they just needed
run
some
away.
brains to direct them in the way to go. And
Way to
when
let
they
the team
had
down,
me, when they had me, they were winning games.
yeah,
all
yeah,
right?
that's it. That's absolutely the
that
case.
one time.
That one time. So I mean, I'll be interested to see. I mean, I think Sin obviously they've really started to shine. I think they've really. I mean, when having looked over the roster this week, it's like pretty much all of them are well established players from from previous teams. So it shouldn't be surprising. But yeah, I mean, I think this has been a really good split of play. Like I think there's been a lot of great games. It's been relatively close, and really even now, I mean, it's still pretty tight. Like I mean, obviously Chiefs are way out in front and Sudden Fear's way out at the bottom. But there's only really
It's a very neat bell curve.
yeah. It's pretty evenly spread. So, what have been some highlights for you guys that you've seen in the last couple of weeks?
Highlights from the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
That's-
Well, your thoughts on the games, if you have any thoughts.
Over the entire season, we've seen some pretty amazing stuff. We've seen, like, at the start of the season, it was kind of like, okay, the team that makes the most mistakes loses, in some circumstances. But I think around halfway through the season, every team kind of hit kind of this momentum point. Immunity were looking really good for a couple of weeks there until Soul Strikes, had to leave. And, Sin started to really take off mid, and Absolute were starting, like, you could tell that they finally were getting it and everything. And Chiefs had a few runs for their money against some of the top teams. And, like, just the entire season has been really exciting. And the fact that it's down to the last day tomorrow, and they've got, like, three-way ties and, different circumstances for different wins, that just shows how close the season has been. And that's really cool. I really do like that. It reminded me of the European League of the 2013. I'm trying to remember where there was like 4 teams tied for second place.
Yeah.
Or something like that. It was like out of
European
8
LCS.
teams. It's like, there's no clear winner. And it came down to like, okay, who performs better on the day? And that's very, very much what tomorrow is going to be like.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think, there's been some awesome play. I mean, Kenzie, I know, for example, like, he, on AV, man, he played 2 games on Vlad and absolutely kicked the crap out of everybody. It was scary.
Vlad's been looking very strong in the open.
Yeah.
Very strong. Like, not every game, I'm pretty sure, but in almost every single showing of Vlad, he's just shown up and just...
Yep.
Okay, he might have died once. But
yeah, actually, Cheese went on it as well. That's right.
Yeah.
And Cheese and Rise is another one. So we saw in Direwolves versus Sudden Fear, and actually where Immunity versus Absolute, which Immunity lost. Ryu was absolutely caning people with Rise. Like Rise is looking terrifying at the moment.
Yeah. There's a couple of powerhouses, and on the like, we're gonna get to the patch notes again soon because we always do.
Yep.
But Ezreal is just ridiculous at the moment, so you can expect either 100% pick or ban guaranteed tomorrow.
Yeah, looking forward to people wanting to get old CNJ back on their teams.
Yeah.
Try and pick him up now that Ezreal's top dog.
Yeah, move it. He's gonna get drafted to radio.
In mid lane. Yeah. With Smite.
So
because this meta is crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, Carrot stole the words out of my mouth. With Ryu, I have not been a fan of Ryu for just the longest time, and then he finally just gets his knees dug in, and he's like, "All right, I belong here," and I'm glad he's finally actually stepped up and done something. I'll give you a little bit
of insight into Ryu. Like, he's actually very good when carrying a game. Like, he can perform really well on that sort of champion, but he's also an amazing team player. Like, he will choose a champion, as I've said for years on this podcast, ever since League, ever since I started getting into League, is that you should choose a champion that works with your team composition. And he's been very good at doing that. So if Maokai teleport ganks are what's going to work with that particular team composition, he'll go it, even if it's not a great matchup for him in top. You know, bless you, Carrot. Yeah, so that's the sort of player he is. But when we give him the opportunity to play a carry, when the meta allows for a top laner to play a carry role, he can just take off with it. And his Rise play was just phenomenal.
Yeah, and I mean, he's played it a few times as well, and I've been really impressed each time. And I mean, I think as the chief not fan of Ryu for a long time, I was
really I was there with you, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, Soul Strikes, I think, really, it must have been a confidence thing or something, because it was really when he came into the team that we actually saw that change. And it could have just been coincidental. It might have just been him getting more comfortable as well.
No, I would say because Ryu's a very quiet player, which means you'll have but someone as vocal as Soul Strikes, who is not on the complete opposite side of the map as T-Gun is, who's calling most of the shots. It means that Ryu's given a lot more opportunities in terms of group communication. So Soul Strikes will be like, oh, going for a gank or whatever, like that. Yeah. And Ryu can use that information, whereas T-Gun's got kind of the broad spectrum of the entire game going on. It's like, all right, we've got a lane pushing this way, we've got this, that sort of thing.
And I mean, I guess he's a quality player, because we've seen, even though Miss Fisher's come in and others have come in, he's still managed to do pretty well, and even carry. I mean, with his Rumble as well as another one. We've seen him really carry with. So
yeah, we've also seen him do pretty bad on Rumble, but that's because whenever you pick Rumble, like this is not just Ryu. I'm talking. I don't know why we're talking about my team all the time. It's not just Ryu, but when you see a Rumble picked in any pro game, you're basically, and you pick it early, you're basically saying to the enemy team, we don't care if you kill us twice under tower. That's not what we care about. Rumble is all about his level 6 ultimate, and his team initiations, and like it's just, he sets stuff up with a huge amount of range. He has and the CC and the damage is just crazy. That's why you choose Rumble. It's like he doesn't do great in a 2v1 situation, but he doesn't care because that's not what he's meant to do. And
I mean, something just to sort of slightly change the topic, something I've seen across, like really this week, I think almost every game they've been relatively close, and then sort of mid-game, sort of 30-minute bad decisions come in, and it really costs them severely. I mean, Immunity versus Absolute is a really good, clear candidate, but even like, Sin versus Avant last Thursday, it was very even until 35 minutes, then Sin tried to Baron, and they just got like stomped by 4 members of AV, who then got Baron and then closed the game out. And it's the same.
The focus on Baron has really been a huge storytelling point for the OPL season. Like, I agree 100% with you that we'll see very, very close games and a lot of either indecision or cautiousness until something involving Baron is involved. Like, it's, we got 2 kills, can we do Baron? And the answer will be yes or no. And they may not necessarily know at the time. But, it might be an ace at Baron, or it might be caught by seen by a ward on the way to Baron, or or they've just got Baron and they can push 3 lanes simultaneously. It's been hugely instrumental in the OPL metagame.
And I mean, even with like Immunity versus Absolute, basically Absolute was sort of looking at a Baron. It was relatively even. Cheese and Ryu got picked off because they were just Zenk and Ryu got picked off because they were out of position. They either weren't looking at the wards and hadn't warded properly, because Zenk, I think, was taking it, killing the Gromp, and Ryu was pushing all the way up in top lane. And Immunity Absolute just came through and got them both, got Baron, finished the game. So I think really the only team that doesn't have that issue is Chiefs. I mean, Chiefs are just so good. Like in their game versus Legacy, like their superior positioning is just so, like, until you see it in action, it's like it's hard to appreciate like how good they are at that. Like, Chiefs went for a dragon, Legacy came to contest, and they were just this like solid block of players, and Legacy just kind of threw themselves at Chiefs. They tried to engage, and they just smashed themselves against Chiefs. So
I love that we're giving like this great just throughout this season synopsis, and Victor's just like feeding himself Vegemite the entire time.
He's a terrible person.
I just kind of want a gif of you just doing that. Just have it playing, pretend it's a webcam. Just
whenever, we'll get that, and we'll
T-Force podcast going live, and just the gif, just constantly.
No, that'll be our like technical issues thing. Like when we technical issues and when page goes down, it's just a technical issues.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's just a gif of eating Vegemite. Oh gosh.
Should we move on to patch notes? We got like
okay, let's.
Well, is there something else we want to talk about? OPL
well, do we want to like just make? So we got these few games left. What are people's predictions? So Armament versus Sudden Fear, then Immunity versus Legacy, Chiefs versus Absolute, Sin versus Direwolves. Thoughts?
I think Chiefs are gonna win the whole thing.
Yes. 14-0 the dream, baby.
It's finally happened.
Well, yeah, it is. It's good. I mean, that's kind of. I mean, that's to have only lost one game. Well, at this point, lost one game in like 20. It's gonna be 28 games. They might have only lost one, maybe two. Like that's a record that's hard to imagine.
They've only lost one game.
Yeah, at the moment it's 27 games. They've lost one. Like in the AFL, that's that's probably one of the best winning records you could have. It's craziness. All right, so Chiefs, predictions. Armament versus Sudden Fear.
Avant versus Sudden Fear, I think, is too close to call. I'm not going to be confident enough to make a pick on that one. Because even though I'll give this slightly to Avant. Hang on, wait, no, Sudden Fear. I'm getting. Sorry, I was getting those teams mixed up. No, Avant-Garde are going to beat Sudden Fear. I hate to see it, but I'm pretty sure Legacy are going to beat us tomorrow. We still don't have Soul Strikes, and we don't have Cheese, so we could win tomorrow, and I really want to, but as an analyst and as a impartial member of the OzLoL podcast, I have to give that one to Legacy. Chiefs versus Absolute, absolutely no chance.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I think the Absolute guys have played well, but this is Chiefs. They're basically immortal now. Direwolves, I think, will take it to Sim Game.
Yeah, I actually think if Sudden Fear do well, if they have the right picks and bans, I think they could potentially beat Avant. Like I think Sudden Fear, like it'd be interesting to see kind of their gold totals, or like how close they are through the games up until a certain point. Because I think most games, like they're not getting stomped. Like it's not like at 10 minutes there's like a 5k lead to the other team. Like it's not like we saw last split.
Sudden Fear's early game is actually quite good, and I think their drafting is pretty decent as well.
Yeah.
They seem to have the mid game team fighting phase transition to late game seems to be their weakest. Like that's where you start to see a tiny error here, a tiny error there, and then a good team. Most teams, as you'll recall, they'll be able to pick them apart because any of the teams in the Oceanic Pro League, you give them give them a mile, they'll give them an inch, they'll take a mile.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell is that saying? I'm trying to use a colloquialism and I'm just fucking it up. But but yeah, like if someone gets caught, one person, your ADC, your jungler support, doesn't matter. If one person's gone, you can pressure a tower and get it. And that's not just a kill. And it's not just the stuff that we've talked about for solo queue guidance, where you're down for 15 seconds, therefore that's 15 seconds of not getting experience and that you have to walk back from the fountain and all. It's not just that as well. You're losing a tower, you're losing map pressure, you're losing vision control. That's what one death can mean. And that's quite frankly, that's what Sudden Fear's problem's been the entire season. Is that they're going against people who do that. Like, the Oceanic League, the Oceanic scene is finally at a sort of level where almost every single team will know what to do when the enemy team make a mistake. Yep. That was not true last season. We would see people make mistakes and people get a kill and then recalls or a Baron call when it wasn't the best option or whatever. We saw a lot of mistakes on both sides in the last season and even towards the start of this season, but I think we're finally at a much higher level than we used to be.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And yes, I think Legacy will beat Immunity. I definitely think Chiefs will win versus Absolute. I think Direwolves, like, I was actually mainly thinking more of Direwolves when I thought of the pick band. Because, I mean, Sharp and Perfection, they are the superstars of Direwolves. And I think if you manage that right, as we saw in this last week, don't give Perfection Azir. He is terrifying on Azir. And I think they had Sharp on Rise and Perfection on Azir, and it was not good. It was not a fun fight after a certain while. So I think if you just manage to sort of and don't give Vlad to Kedsty on AV, you're just not going to have a fun time. So I mean, I think if you sort of have the right sort of picks and bans, I think those teams have a good chance.
Direwolves are quite the hyper carry team.
Yeah.
They normally play for the long run.
Yeah.
Because they're really strong on defense. When I've watched them play, they've always been really good at playing from behind and playing on defense and really dragging the game out. So they are a hyper carry team, which is why they struggle a lot against Chiefs because they just smash them straight out.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I guess tomorrow we'll know the final standings, and it's not that long until we have the actual proper final, which I am going to be at, and sounds like you are too, Steve. So.
Well, I haven't booked my flights or accommodation yet, but I have secured a ticket.
Yep. Well, that's the first step. All right, let's move on to patches. We didn't talk about Ringglade from 4.12, but there's also some changes in 4.13, so maybe we'll talk about them both. So, yes, let's talk Ringglade. I'm just going to try and find all the things. All right, here we go, Ringglade. So, this is the replacement for, if you're not familiar, Ringglade is the replacement for the Magus enchantment for the jungle. And it's where Magus gave like spell penetration and a bit of AP, bit of cooldown. This now gives a Spellblade proc, a bit like, so it's Sheen plus the item plus gold. You get 50 ability power. You get you get 10% cooldown reduction.
I was reading it. It says 40 here, dude. But no, you're reading the 5.
Yeah, because looking across them both.
Damn you!
It's because the AP rework hits in 5.13, so it's actually gone up in ability power.
Yeah, you get 200 mana, and you get the Spellblade component. The AD ratio is actually 1.0, like 100% AD. Yeah, a full AD ratio instead of 0.75, which it is for like everything else that uses Sheen. So, what are thoughts on Ringglade? Steve, you already kind of, I guess, flagged something. What we see with AP Ezreal in the mid.
Well, it's just Ezreal mid's been played like Trinity Force, and he's played Iceborne Gauntlet and everything. The new Spellblade Ringglade Ezreal doesn't have the weakness of another one of the previous versions, where he has early wave clear potential, as well as all the bonuses that the item itself will give him. So he gets rid of one of his big problems. Like, you could just shove an Ezreal, make other plays elsewhere on the map, and all he could do was throw his ult down and hope it hit at that time. So, but by giving him an area of effect on hit effect, he's just got crazy amount of wave clear, and it restores 8% of your missing mana. So
that's right.
Like, just queue for days, it's made Ezreal, who was already a strong champion, he's kind of like Zed in that, where he's not picked every game, but when he is, if your matchup isn't kind, if your team comp is sort of weak to that, then you're in a lot of trouble. And now he's even better than that. So he's gonna smash. The Runeglaive, and he's been played mid with Smite for this item, and for very good reason. It's really, really powerful.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of sucks though for actual AP junglers because it's hard to imagine.
What are they?
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, it's not exactly like AP junglers with like the bee's knees to begin with. Now they don't even have Magus. I mean, Magus was a pretty good item. Like spell pan and cooldown reduction in AP is nice. So,
Yeah.
but this is like, yeah, I don't think they should have necessarily got rid of Magus. Like it didn't. This is a very different item. Like most,
Yeah.
like,
No, I agree.
you wouldn't give this
I
to a
know.
Fiddlesticks. Like, why would you give this to Fiddlesticks?
Yeah. Even like Nidalee could take advantage of this, but Fiddlesticks.
Yes, actually, she could. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And
well,
go Victor.
as far as AP junglers go, no two AP junglers are the same, and the Magus was good for just about all of them. I mean, it wasn't a great item. Like you'd be better picking up some kind of other AP item, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of them would even go as far to sell it at some point. But the Runeglaive type for junglers, it only helps one specific type of jungler, and that's ones that very often will actually use their auto attacks, which is probably Nidalee and also Diana, which sort of singles out Fiddlesticks as, hey, it's not your item. You're too busy draining people to be using this item, so don't even think about it, buddy. And that is really where the issue of making a good AP jungle item comes into play, because the AP junglers are just so different to all the other junglers, which is why we have an item called Devourer for the AD junglers, because there was a different class of AD junglers that did better with Devourer than they would with something like the Warrior, and that's when Feral Flare was invented and became really crazy, and then got nerfed, and then all the jungle items got changed up again. So we have a similar issue with AP junglers, and that's why and so now we have Runeglaive, which is only useful to one type, and even then, AP junglers are still not that great because a lot of them depend quite a bit on Snowball, particularly Diana, to actually get anywhere, and that's why you're more often seeing this on lane Ezreal than freaking jungle Dianas.
And
we're
really,
seeing...
like, it doesn't fix
go
the
ahead,
problem
Gary.
with AP junglers, which is they're squishy, they're easily ganked, they don't have any pressure to their ultimates. You know, they just have some real issues as just a general concept, let alone the actual execution of it. And the problem with items is you can't band-aid that problem with items, because it's a bit like the old issue with
You have to buy
the
items.
Essence Reaver. That is the problem you have is you need mana in bottom lane early on with a Lucian or with a Varus or whoever, and then you have to build this 3,000 gold item that is only useful once you've actually gotten to that point.
Got past the hard bit.
You got past the hard bit. It's the same with AP junglers. Like AP junglers, and I guess tank junglers have had this issue for a while. They've kind of looks like they've just through the way they've changed everything, they're not quite as bad. But you know, you've got this issue where you are really vulnerable to being counter jungled. You don't have any pressure, and even then it's just really painful to clear. Like the first couple of clears with AP junglers are miserable. So it's sort of like you can't necessarily fix that with an item, because the item you need is,
as Victor said, like that. All the AP junglers are different as well, so that's not 100% across the board for every AP jungler, but it's a good rule of thumb for this discussion.
And
so I mean,
also, AD junglers start the game no matter what your runes masteries are. An AD jungler will always start the game with AD. AP junglers need items to get AP. Or have to start dishing money into runes and masteries, and then they might lose some defensive masteries they might need, like scaling magic resist or flat armor or flat HP, things like that.
Yeah, like there's no mistaking, Runeglaive is an incredibly powerful item. That's not the discussion. Like, and Cinderhulk, it's had a few nerfs, but it's still a very powerful item. It still defines the meta that we're playing in the game at the moment. That might change with like everybody playing Ezreal, but for the moment, before we see that transition, I think Korea's playing on 5.12, 5.12 now. Like they're not even up to 5.13 yet, and Ezreal's probably going off. I don't know. I haven't got the window open yet. Gonna have to watch those later. But it really does. Like, Riot have obviously tried really hard to go, we want the jungler to feel awesome. We want the
Yeah.
jungler to feel like they're powerful and able to do damage, and when they gank lanes, they're not just going, I hope my AP character follows up, because otherwise I'm going to die. You know, they've really steered towards that this season. And it takes me back this week in League Meta to Wriggle's Lantern before that item required Smite. And when people were building it on Vayne and like on characters all over the place, because it was a really gold efficient item, and it came with a free ward, like unlimited wards on a timer, and a tremendous amount of lifesteal. And it's like, well, the junglers need that to jungle, because the jungle was really tough back then, before it got made easy and then tough again. But, you know, when people were picking it up in other lanes, and Riot were like, well, we don't want this, we want this to be a jungle item. So they made the machete, and they made the machete require Smite, and you know what AD carry or, you know, what top laner in their right mind would take Smite. And now we've got Ezreal being played AP in the mid lane with the Runeglaive. We've got Hecarims and Fizzes and all sorts of weird things being played in the top lane with Smite. And, you know, how long is it going to be until we start seeing supports going, you know, that particular item works really well with this, you know, like we're going to have smites all over the place. And it's like, we were here for the beginning of the Smite Wars in 2015. You know, it's, they're everywhere. Like, we saw Cho'Gath make a resurgence. Like, he first kind of showed up in China and went, whatever, the Chinese people are crazy. When they're, like, the Chinese players are crazy. When they're drafting and everything like that. But we started seeing Cho'Gath in other regions as well. It's parts of team compositions, and it wasn't really until I saw the Smite Wars start with the, you know, with the Hecarim smiting, the jungler smiting, and the Cho'Gath just instantly evaporating that Baron or Dragon, that I really saw what was happening. It's like, it's escalation. It's like, Cho'Gath is the only character in the game who can outsmite a smiter, with the exception of maybe Kalista, but you need control over that to really execute that well. So it really became an escalation of smite damage, who could actually secure the last hit on the objective. And that's the Runeglaive introduction, I think, is just going to make that worse.
Yep.
Or better, depending on your perspective.
And the reason this all happened was because Riot made Dragon overpowered.
Should we talk about Devour? Since we're talking about jungle items, should we talk about Devour right at this point? We don't normally start with items. Let's do it. Okay, so this is replacing the... Well, this is the modifying... Sorry. So it no longer stinks infinitely. It does more damage on hit. And basically you build stacks. Once you get to 30 stacks, you get an upgraded item. So large monsters give you 1 stack per takedown. Killer assist. Epic monsters give you 5 stacks per takedown. Champions are 1 stack. Rift Scuttler, which is actually kind of cool, is 2 stacks. So now Rift Scuttler becomes even more valuable.
Kill the damn Scuttler.
Basically, once you reach 30 stacks, every other basic attack triggers on hit effects twice. So, yeah. And I think it does. I thought it increased the damage as well. Maybe I'm missing something.
The Sated Devourer, it retains, because when you stack up Devourer, it increases the damage up until you hit the cap, and then it retains that, and it retains that damage cap when you convert it over, and then you get the
Ghost
extra
Dog
on hit thing.
Yep, Ghost Dog. Yeah,
Ghost Dog. That's so cool.
So basically, he's going to be hitting you like 3 times for every, like on every 7th attack or something stupid.
Yeah.
So basically, on hit damage is so things like the Blade of the Rune King passive proc. There's actually not a whole lot. I mean, Wit's End, I'd say. Not Spellblade. Yeah, so things like that you get extra.
I think it'd be more stuff built into specific characters' kit, like, I don't know, like Master Yi's True Damage or Master Yi's Double Hit Passive or something, if it lined up.
So what you're saying is Master Yi, Devourer.
No, don't play Master Yi. Never play Master Yi.
Well, I don't think you would have gone for this before. I don't know. I mean, I guess this doesn't fix the issues with those sorts of junglers. They're weak early. They're going to be ganked to the hell. You know, they're just going to get counter jungled, and they don't have necessarily much pressure. And really, I mean, how many people are going to do on hit effects? So those who buy Blade of the Ruin King, how many junglers buy Blade? Not that many. You've got probably Tryndamere and Yi. That's probably it.
I'm just thinking dumb things like, Oriana and Ziggs that do AP damage, AP scaling damage on a hit. And I'm just
Yeah.
thinking about that. Like,
they can stack it on champions and
Yeah.
with
Yep.
Scuttler, so why the hell not?
It's like, oh yeah, auto attack. Oh, you're at half health. You made, 500 AP, whatever.
Yep.
I do like the way it is. You get extra stacks for important objectives like Rift Scuttler and Epic Monsters. So it's pushing people who would buy this item away from ganking, which they don't want to do, and more towards controlling the jungle and getting wards in everywhere and making sure, okay, I have control of this crab, so I can get my extra stacks on the dragon, I can get my stacks on their crab, I can get into their jungle and get wards up in there and take stacks from all their stuff and then go back to my jungle. And so that's sort of like this really promotes that kind of play style of Devourer instead of the pick Udum the Animal King and then AFK in your jungle for 30 minutes and then show up with 100 stacks and melt people to death. And then have your lanes fed? No. If no, then you might win.
Yeah. Stick with tanks. That's what I'd say.
I still prefer, like, this isn't so good for Warwick anymore. Because his ultimate doesn't proc the passive quite as, the on-hits quite as well. But, I honestly prefer Cinderhulk Warwick more at the moment. I prefer Cinderhulk Udyr at the moment more at the moment, so...
Well, I'm one of the minority where whenever I played Warwick, however pronouncing it, I'd always build him tank, regardless. I'd maybe get one offensive item.
I
it
go
might have been the
side.
jungle item. It might have been a Blade of the Ruin King, or going all the way back. What was that on hit? Elder's Blood Razor.
Yeah,
Madred's Blood Razor.
Madred's Blood Razor, yeah. Going all the way back then, I'd buy one of those items, not necessarily those three, but something along those lines, and then super tank, and then I'd just go use my ult to initiate on their far back line, and then just tear them to pieces with my Sunfire Cape.
I tried several times to make the current Devourer work on Warwick in recent days, and it was not happening. But the second I started putting Cinderhulk on him and started stacking tank, he was good again.
Yeah.
Like, he was playable on a solo queue level. It wasn't like when all the jungle changes first happened and he was ulting onto people, and it doesn't matter if they were a tank or AD carry, they were going to die by the end of his ultimate. It's not like that, and even when you build all those on-hit items, it's still not like that. But when you build him tank, you can have a lot of success, you can lock people down, you can be a real menace, you can... be like me, and you can be like me and build a frozen mallet and annoy the crap out of everyone and annoy Carrot because I built a frozen mallet.
Let's talk about Righteous Glory. So Righteous Glory, they're nerfing, they're reducing the health from 600 to 500, and they're this is the big one, increasing the cooldown from 60 seconds to 90 seconds. So probably well worth it, because Righteous Glory was so ridiculously good. And it has been for a while, and then they buffed it.
Because they buffed it from 500 to 600, and it was already really good at 500. And not to mention that it's stacked with Cinderhulk, which was at the time the most powerful item. And increasing the cooldown, that's fine. It's still an amazing item. It still does everything that it did before. And, are you really having team fights every 60 seconds? No. No, you're putting up wards and playing defensively and getting minion waves clearing, and then you're having a team fight, or then you're having a duel or whatever. So it's still a great item. Still buy it.
Yes, absolutely. Spirit Visage, now you get 20% increased to all healing. So if Soraka's healing
that's huge. I think that's amazing.
You reckon that's huge? Why do you reckon it's huge?
I think that's... Well, because there's a lot of just heals across the board. Summon a heal is still one of the most powerful summoners in the game. Like, Smite is number one after, the obvious flash that everybody takes. Unless they're taking Smite and teleporting the top lane. Anyway, distracted. But, they say pretty huge buff to Soraka, and I'm like, well, that's true-ish. If you're gonna build a composition around Soraka, then Spirit Visage is the natural choice. But You know, the summon a heal spell, 20% increase to that. Alistair just spamming his Q, his E, sorry. You know, 20% increase to that. Like, if it just there's a lot of different avenues of health that are kind of shrugged off, or you know, they're a nice thing, but they don't really do much. I think I've heard you say those exact words many times over the years, Carrot. Is that you know, but it adds up. Like,
Yep.
that it's actually quite a lot. Whether or not like this makes Spirit Visage a more attractive item in general, I don't think like Spirit Visage is already one like if not the go-to magic resist item.
Yeah.
But now it's more powerful for no reason. I don't know. Like what reasons did they give? Just pushing the healer synergy a little harder. When picking up a Spirit Visage, your thought process can now be, do I have a great healer? In addition to, do I have a great healer? So, you've got a conspiracy theory, only if you do it in the Victor voice.
Rito Games are trying to make Soraka and Sona and Alistar stronger because they want Ardent Sensor to be a valuable item. So they are buffing healing across the board to make more attractive item in Ardent Sensor, giving movement, attack speed, sorry.
And now that you mention it, Ardent Sensor does give, what, 30 magic damage on hit, which, with the new changes to
Devour.
Runeglaive to Devourer, that's going to hit 3 times.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's, no, I don't think that's the case. I don't think anything right could do. Maybe if they remove all other items from the game, people would buy Ardent Sensor. But yeah, I think that's probably what they need to do to make Ardent Sensor worth taking. Just delete everything else.
Actually, sorry, this discussion just reminded me when you were asking about our highlights over the OPL.
Yeah.
Shen with Banner of Command has 100% win rate in the OPL. And it's not just been played once; it's at least twice.
Oh really? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, legit strat, awesome. I came up with that. I predicted that back when the item was first introduced. I'm proud.
Shen with Banner Command is a bit like Fetch. It's never going to happen. I'm sorry, Steve.
It's happened.
I'm pretty sure that you only predicted Shen with a what's that Void Gate thingy.
Yeah.
Oh, ZZ Portal as well. That hasn't happened, unfortunately.
No, that's because it's a terrible item. All right, let's talk about AP items. So they've been changed as well. So Blasting One is 10 golds cheaper. Okay. Needlessly Large Rod is being substantially nerfed. It's gone from 80 to 20. And the cost is now 1250 instead of 1600.
It's gone down 20. It's from 80 to 60.
From 80 to 60. Isn't that what I said?
I think you said 80 to 20, or I misheard you. One of the two.
Okay.
Either way.
I was 80 to 60. Okay. And basically from there, they're changing the formulas and reducing AP. So, Death Cap's actually increased by 200. It's made from now 3 AP items. So, Needlessly Large Rod, Blasting One, and an Amp Tone. It's still 120 AP. But now it gives a 35% AP bonus instead of 30. Zonya's has gone down by 300. It loses 20 AP. Luden's is 300 cheaper and loses 20 as well. It goes
it's finally been nerfed, technically.
And move speed's gone up, though. Yep. And oh man, there's heaps here. All right, well, let's just talk about those ones to begin with. See if we can go into the others. Actually,
Basically, Rito Games decided that their AP system was rubbish, and they thought they would rework all of the AP items and make it standard across the board, similar to what they did to AD items recently, where all BF sword items would end at 80 AD. They're doing a similar thing with their AP items, where Needlessly Large will sit at 60, and the small AP items like Nash's Tooth and I want to say Rylaia's Crystal Scepter or Archangel Staff, they're bumping all of them up to 80. They're flattening out most of the Needlessly Large Rod items, that's Zonya's and Luden's at 100, and then they're making Death Cap the AP item by upping its ability power increase and keeping it at 120. And as you can see in the patch notes, it's gone from 120 to still 120.
Yep.
There you go.
What I think one of the most interesting changes that they've made in here is the one to void staff. Now they've changed it slightly, They've increased the gold cost on it, and they've increased the ability power from 70 to 80. But they've also reduced a whole bunch of the other ones, as we've just been saying, and increased some of the others. But Void Staff still has the spell penetration on there, which means the spell penetration percentage that you're getting on Void Staff is now more cost effective based on the opportunities to get ability power elsewhere and included in itself. Previously, if you wanted to go a spell penetration build, you would see on a few different
Rumble.
top laners and sorry,
Rumble.
yeah. You'd see that on a lot of people. You could basically pick up the Void Staff, Short Sork Shoes, and a Haunting Guise, and you would be doing great damage even without a lot of AP. What is that?
Oh, look at
70,
Leandri's.
90 ability
Leandri's
power worth of
Torment.
items?
Look at Leandri's Torment's gone from 50 up to 80. That's a 40 AP increase
Yeah.
on
They've-
Leandri's.
Yeah. Did they change Haunting Guise? Is that? Hang on.
Haunting Guys has only had a gold increase because
Yeah.
by 20 gold, mind you. That's
Yeah.
5 seconds standing on the altar.
Their notes is hashtag clean numbers. I like it.
And the only gold increase was 100 gold for 40 more AP.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially considering the change to Zhonya's, like they've made it cheaper and they've dropped the ability power. Now, if that was the only change in this patch, we could probably cry havoc for that. It's like Zhonya's only giving 100 ability power. It's one of the few 120 ability power items. Blah blah blah. But everything else has been brought down into line with it, except for the death cap. Now, I think that's better for both Hourglass and Death Cap, because now not only can you get the Hourglass earlier, so it's more viable for things like Kennen and Morgana, whether they're top or support or mid or whatever. It makes it a better item for them because they get the active on Zhonya's Hourglass and the armor earlier on Zhonya's Hourglass. It makes Death Cap a clearer choice because no one was buying Death Cap when you could get Luden's Echo, or they were not getting it because they needed Zhonya's Hourglass earlier. Now,
Can I also say that
yes,
while you're
it's
there,
a podcast. You can say whatever you want.
The combined cost, the combined cost of Rabadon's and Zhonya's has actually gone down by about 100. It's about 100 gold, but there you go. Anyway,
Movement speed on Luden's Echo went up by 3%. That's fun.
Yeah. And it's just the annoying proc. Like, it's just... Luden's Echo, particularly on something like ARAM, is just a pain in the butt. So,
it's just
they haven't changed that. It's annoying as hell.
It's like, yep, more damage. Bonk, yep, more damage. Yep, thank you. Shit.
Yeah. I kind of want to see Teemo now. Like, I'm just looking at the
You're a
changes
terrible person, Steve.
No,
Don't
like
ever say that
Rylai's
again on the show.
Like, look at Rylai's Crystal Scepter has gone up slightly, but the slow is increased. The area of effect of the slow is now increased as well. The damage over time has gone up. Like, basically, someone walks over a shroom, you're getting just double shafted by the Rylai's Crystal Scepter, as well as Leandri's Torment now being better
Well,
and
except that
providing more ability power.
they've changed the way in 4.13 how slows work, so you're only affected by the highest slow. Slows don't stack anymore.
Okay, did we skim over that? I don't remember.
We haven't talked about that yet.
Okay,
It's right at the start of the patch notes. Yeah, spoilers.
Okay.
Spoilers to the start of the patch notes that
are.
are easily available on
Hey.
the client and on the internet.
How do you
Spoiler
guys
alert.
feel about this? It's just like something you've heard for the amount of time you've been playing this game. Riley's is now on par with Luden's and Zhonya's in terms of AP. How does that sound to you? They all give 100 AP now.
Yeah, no, that's all right. No, I think that's a good choice. Like, each gives you slightly different things, and I think the thing about Rylai's is it can be cheaper now that only the highest slow applies. You're not stacking slows, so it's actually a real choice. Like, you know, I guess in some ways it's a clearer choice for those who don't have a slow who want one. You know what I mean? Like, it's like yeah, I don't know. Like, they could actually make it cheaper, sort of overall, maybe even because it's not giving as much power to those who already have slows. Does that make sense, or am I just like rambling?
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Changing the slow stacking thing just kind of allows them to probably make it a more attractive item in certain ways. So yeah, I think that's okay. I mean, yeah, just different things like Luden's and Zonias, and Rylai's, are they all about the same cost as well? So 3,000, yeah, 3,000. Yeah, they're all 3,000 as well. So they're all the same cost.
The only
Archangel Staff's 3,000, but that's not
the only
as much.
item that builds out of needlessly now that doesn't finish on or above 100 is Archangel Staff.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's got other things. That's got the
I actually
the
think
mana.
Archangels is going to be quite powerful now.
yeah.
But Archangels, because the mana you get back when
Yeah.
it pops up, it probably makes up for that 20 less than 100 you don't get. So
Well, if
And
you- if
Roa
you
actually
consider-
gives more mana now as well. So it gives you an extra. It gives you 400 mana from the growth. So what it would have been before? It would have been 650 before. Now it gives you 800. So
Yeah.
Rod of Ages, Seraph's Embrace is going to be even better now.
Yeah, well, if you think the standard Karthus path, it's start tier, rush a Roa, and depending on how well you're going, you could go needlessly large rod into any of the needlessly large items. But now, I think the clear winner there is going to be the death cap. I might be wrong about that, but
Maybe.
the death cap is pretty goddamn scary. And also, you finish your Archangels. That's gonna the Archangels with just a Roa. Like this is pre this patch, pre 5.13, a Roa and a fully stacked tier without any runes, maybe some masteries, I'm trying to remember, but it was about 92 ability power from the passive.
Yep.
On that, and it was that's pretty goddamn good.
Yeah.
And they're increasing the amount of mana the Rod of Ages gives you. They're increasing that, and then
and
the
Seraph's
ability
Embrace
power
got-
you get. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, Seraph's Embrace now gives you more AP as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So that's
yeah, exactly. And then Rabadon's Death Cap gives you more AP again. Like,
So basically, this
Oh
is
my
an
God!
indirect nerf to
There's
Karthus, indirect buff to Karthus and Rise and Kassadin.
Cassiopeia
Because Rise,
benefits from it as
of
well.
all the peak champions in the game who needed a buff, Rise was like the top of that list.
I need to bring
Cassiopeia
highlighting-
benefits from that a lot.
Oh, you
too.
too, yeah, sorry, Cassiopeia.
Well, this is something I want to bring to everyone's attention. Will of the Ancients.
Actually, no, before this, in terms of exciting news for Karthus, Steve,
Yeah.
Karthus is getting a chroma. I can tell you're very excited.
Yeah,
Only
totally.
change the particles on them to a different color.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the colors would be nice.
It's only
But-
for Reaper.
So, Will of the Ancients.
Yeah, Will of the Ancients. It no longer has Spell Vamp. It has your abilities heal you for 15% of the damage dealt calculated before your opponent's resistance. Before your opponent's resistances, 33% effect for AOE. That's crazy good.
Yep.
Like, especially considering how Vlad's recently made a comeback.
Yeah.
Now, who cares what their
He heals
magic
even
resist
more.
is? Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if this is like part of an overall thing to get rid of Spellvamp, because Spellvamp is not a great stat.
Yeah,
And
it's fading into obscurity pretty bad.
yeah, and now it's actually getting even harder to find items that give you Spellvamp.
Yeah.
Because Will of the
Like,
Ancients
basically,
was
if I'm
theoretically
playing-
the Spellvamp item, and now it doesn't even give you that, so...
If I'm planning on going late game and I know I'm going to want Spell Vamp, I'll just run the Quints. I won't
Yep.
bother picking up Will of the Ancients
Yep.
on previous patches, because 6% is enough Spell Vamp, and it wasn't good enough in terms of the stats that it gave you previously to bother picking up.
Yeah.
Like if you were going to get it, you'd get the revolver and sit on that. You wouldn't bother upgrading to Will of the Ancients quite a lot of the time because there just wasn't a big power spike from picking that up. I mean, it made it better than just the revolver, of course, but if all you're after is the spell pen,
Yep.
then you didn't need to go that way. So,
Yeah.
but before your opponent's resistances, that's going to make, first of all, from game design, I think that's amazing because it's going to give you more clarity. Like if you're new to the game,
Yeah.
or even if you're even relatively experienced, going against like a super tech, like going against a Galio, you're all of a sudden no longer going to heal Doug All because he's got 300 magic resist in 10 minutes.
Now you can just
You know?
look at your abilities. Look at your abilities. Okay, I'm gonna deal 300 damage and I'll heal for 15% of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But that's
45.
well, that is now the case.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we've just about hit the hour mark, so we get probably. Is there anything else from the AP items that stands out as a winner before we finish up?
Not really.
The Andrew's Tolman's better,
Yeah.
3,000 gold, but it's 80 AP, so
Yeah.
that's nice.
Freaking
Like, I
100
think
for
these
100
changes-
for 100 more gold, you get 40 more AP on Leandri's soulmate line.
30.
I think
Goes
these
from 50
changes
to
are going to
80.
have.
Same shit.
Yeah, I think the AP item changes are going to have sweeping implications in mid lane, especially.
Yeah.
But not until Ezreal is no longer picking Smite. I think,
Yes.
like, because right now he is going to define the meta. I can guarantee you it. But
Yep.
This
after
is going to
that
be a
phase-
huge patch. This is
Yeah.
going to be a very big patch to remember. All of the exploits, all of the OPs are just going to run rampant for the entirety of this patch, right up until the next one. So you better prepare your butts and put on your carry pants, I guess, or just try not to get too angry, because this is going to be a rough patch, because it'll be alright for the first couple days, and then people will work out what the OPs are, what the exploits are. Oh, this guy does crazy good with this, and this guy does crazy good with this, and oh my god, they totally buffed the crap out of my champion secretly, and Riot have done nothing to compensate. And Sated Devour is coming in next patch, and Runeglaive is still settling in. There is a lot right now that people are still getting used to, and there is going to be a lot of exploit and a lot of OP stuff that's going to be very difficult to deal with, and nothing is going to get fixed until the next patch. So
basically what we're saying is Runeglaive, AP Sona mid lane with Will of the Ancients is like the new OP, and Spirit Visage. Yeah. something like that.
I just noticed
And an
something that I
Ardent
missed in the
Sentinel.
patch notes earlier. Upcoming skin, Gentleman Nah.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That is the cutest thing I've ever seen.
And I'm a
Oh,
pretty
good.
big fan of the sushi chef Tom Kench. It's pretty nice. As a man who's been to Japan and enjoyed some sushi, I think it's quite hilarious.
Oh, I'd also like to say, zillion players, i.e. me and only me, it's time to rejoice, because now you won't accidentally hit your rewind before throwing your fucking Q and then getting really angry because you won't get a stun bomb now.
Yeah.
Just on that splash art that you were talking about for the sous chef Tom Kench, he kind of looks like the abomination chef from Star Wars Episode 2. Dex. Remember they go into the
Oh,
diner
yeah,
with
that
it?
guy.
Yeah, he looks like him, right?
Yeah, it does actually. Yeah. So, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there you
You,
go.
you might get that reference a little easier if that movie ever happened. But it
Yes,
didn't.
it did.
La 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 la.
No,
Yeah,
it's
episode
an
2.
abomination.
Episode 2? I don't remember any.
Oh, it
kind
was a
of episode.
fanfic that George Lucas put out
Yeah,
a while ago.
that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Basically,
Japs-
George Lucas has got dementia and picked up a pen and wrote a script.
See,
And,
So that's weird, because they call it 4, 5, and 6, but they never completed that kind of
Yeah,
that 6
weird,
episode
right?
thing. They're just kind of moving on to 7, which I thought was really weird.
Yeah, that
I mean,
is,
here
yeah.
I am playing Star Wars: The Old Republic, and people are talking about prequels, and I'm like, I haven't heard no
This
prequels.
is the
Do you-
prequel. It was
Yeah.
thousands of generations ago. Now, before I know you're about to inevitably close out, but we need
yeah,
to.
I am. So jump
We
in.
need to check one thing. Victor, how did you go with the Vegemite?
Yeah, how did you go?
I actually put quite a pretty decent dint in it. I think I ate
Oh,
about.
good
a
luck with your
quarter of
health,
the jar.
sir.
Maybe we'll give maybe if somebody can show us the most, send us a video or something, like some sort of series of videos of the most impressive way you can eat Vegemite.
You
Maybe
don't change the competition. You announced it earlier.
Yeah.
Where
So
did they send that again to?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so the RP competition is you send us some email, Facebook message, post on Facebook, send us a tweet, and tell us the most Aussie way to give somebody RP. So that's the competition. That's the RP competition, and we'll say give it a couple of weeks. We got a couple of weeks.
We got a couple
And,
weeks to it. I'm just half expecting the Twitch chat to Ponophobia just to come up. You have one day.
I ignore that guy anyway. Who cares about him, really? All right, that's it for episode 92. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll be back again next week.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
You're a disgusting pig, Victor.